Ross Robertson.
Tēnā koe, Mr Speaker. Kia ora tātou no reira te whare, inga iwi, inga rio, inga hawe wha, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. Mr Speaker, can I first of all acknowledge the author of the bill, the Honourable Nathan Guy, and thank him for the work that he's put in. But that also extends also to my own colleague, Mr Speaker, the Honourable Member Chris Hipkins, who, from our point of view, the Labour side, will actually steer this bill through the Select Committee. Mr Speaker, with identity fraud and related crime on the increase and a growing problem not just here in New Zealand but also internationally, this bill is an idea whose time has come. And one would say, Mr Speaker, not before time. But we want to see the government and business have enhanced ability to combat identity fraud. But of course the question goes with that, or has to go with that, Mr Speaker, is privacy. And that is an issue that we on this side of the House are most concerned about. We've already had identity fraud here in New Zealand on a number of occasions, and there's been a few high-profile ones at that. And if I could just draw to the House's attention, Mr Speaker, from the Bay of Plenty Times, in August of this year, the dishonesty of an alcoholic from Te Puna man jailed yesterday for using his brother's name to dodge criminal charges struck at the very heart of the justice system, a court has been told. Brent Baxter, 37, was sentenced to 10 months imprisonment for attempting to defeat the course of justice and received a further 3 months imprisonment for drink driving. It goes on. Mr Speaker, there's also the case of innocent youngsters' use of Facebook, which is concerning principals in some of the schools. And this is what it says here. Norfolk School Principal Jason Elder had to investigate an identity theft this week after reports one of his students was being impersonated online. An older boy had allegedly been posing as a girl from the school, upsetting her and her family. Those are just a few, Mr Speaker, of some of the cases. This is an interesting one. Robin Hood charged with identity theft. Authorities said a 34-year-old named Robin Joshua Hood found someone's wallet in downtown Denver and apparently began using the man's name in a ploy to avoid being caught on a warrant. He told investigators he was being investigated for drug charges and was charged with identity theft and impersonation. There are many other cases, Mr Speaker, that one could draw to the attention of the House, but I don't want to take too much time in doing that because this in itself is a very important piece of legislation. We live, sir, in a multi-ethnic society, and none more so than my own area of Manukau. And in Manukau, Mr Speaker, at the last census, we had 184 different ethnic groups residing within its boundaries. I mean, it's exciting. I mean, the diversity enriches our society, helps us grow as a nation, and also, sir, brings a new round of expertise to our nation. And even though, sir, it's vibrant and exciting, and I love being there, and I'm passionate about the area, diversity brings challenges to the bureaucracy and officials, and I understand the need for them to combat identity fraud. So in complying with the Anti-Money Laundering and Counterfeiting Finance of Terrorism Act 2009, one is mindful about the cost of compliance. And that's what we have here. And I'll never forget, Mr Chairman, Mr Speaker, campaigning in the South Island some years ago, and this is to do with compliance. I walked into a small business, talked about the issue of compliance, and I said, hey, we're going to do something about that. And the guy there sitting at his desk had all these papers in front of him, and he said, hallelujah, and he threw them all in the air. So compliance is a real concern, and that is also inherent, Mr Speaker, when one looks at this particular legislation, because the regulatory impact statement prepared by the Department of Internal Affairs describes how this bill benefits businesses by cutting the cost of complying with this Act. And that's got to be a good thing. That's a positive that actually comes out of this particular Act. Now, I want to outline, Mr Speaker, what is actually required. There are a number of things here. The first is that the Anti-Money Laundering and Counterfeiting Financing of Tourism Act 2009, passed in October 2009, provided that reporting entities, such as banks and other financial institutions, must undertake customer due diligence in order to verify the identity of their customers. And that's an important consideration, Mr Chairman. I'm sure you know yourself, if you've been into a bank, one of the first things they want to know is that the person they're talking to is in fact the person that's in front of them. Mr Chairman, another important part of this is that one of the aims of this requirement is to reduce identity fraud, which in turn will reduce money laundering and the financing of terrorism, as well as other criminal activity. That's an important consideration as well. And then there are substantial business compliance costs associated with these requirements. Mr Chairman, this bill, which proposes establishing, Mr Speaker, my correction, this bill which is proposes establishing a consent-based service whereby public and private agencies can check identity information is important.
It upsets me to have to interrupt the member, but the time has come for the House to rise, so this debate is interrupted and the bill set down for resumption next sitting day, and the House will stand adjourned until 2 p.m. on Tuesday the 19th of October in the year 2010. Kia ora, everybody.